he just has to deliver sheep.
Just sheep.
It's like Cyborg. It's like Cyborg.
Oh, yes.
But with sheep and dragons.
Cyborg was a movie I was so excited about renting. Because, again, I think we talked about this a little bit when we did our Universal Soldier podcast, which people should check out. But, like, Van Damme was, like, the apex guy. But when I learned about Van Damme was, like, Universal Soldier or, like, TBS watching Kickboxer. So then, in a world before the internet was really a thing, you'd go down to your local video store and just say, what do you have that's Van Damme? And they said to me, it's like, there's a movie called Cyborg. And I was like, you're talking like a friggin' cyborg and it's there was not really a cyborg in that movie. Like, I know that girl said she was a cyborg, but it wasn't like a sweet battling cyborg. And that movie was just like, again, a bit jarring to watch when you didn't know what to expect. But yeah, Cyborg with sheep though is what this would be.
Cyborg was so awesome to me when I was a kid, just because of certain scenes. You know, you're watching it and it just felt like dangerous, like an R-rated movie, like knives out of people's boots. There's guys wearing gas masks for no reason. People are fighting in the rain. JCVD does the big split. But when you watch it again and you're older, you're like, what
am I watching?
Yeah, this is horrible. I almost don't want to. Yeah, I don't ever want to watch it again. Actually, it's a movie I never want to watch again because I just want to keep my good memories for it.
Exactly. Don't ruin this for me. And then to go back to our multi-platform thing, McConaughey's rise up, like the people, like the village that killed the dragons after the army couldn't do it. Like, that's a comic book series that will release.
Yeah. Oh, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So I was talking to a friend about this movie, and so my buddy, I don't know why, he does not like Matthew McConaughey. I'm a big fan of his. I called him McConaissance when Lincoln Lawyer came out. I'd said things are changing for him, and then he did Killer Joe, then he did another big movie, then he did Mud, then he did Interstellar, then he won the Oscar. I called it, but he hates McConaughey for some reason. But he was like, Reign of Fire is the only McConaughey movie I'll watch because he thinks it's the only movie where McConaughey acts.
Really?
Now, he is... So if you think back to a lot of McConaughey movies, he has this really kind of late... he did the rom-coms with Sarah Jessica Parker and Kate Hudson, right? The kind of relaxed dude. Then he did...
I'll say this. Fool's Gold is a very watchable movie.
Oh, very watchable movie. Jet ski action scene. Now, which we're going to talk about snowmobiles later on.
I'm so excited about snowmobiles.
I have a ton of data to drop, but I'll save it for that. In this movie, though, he isn't McConaughey. He's McConaughey, but he's like this bald. I mean, he's jacked up in movies. He's bald. He's not. I don't even think he's curtsying. He's just he's not McConaughey.
He's very somber.
Yeah. Like, I don't even think he's like a madman. I think he's just seen decimation and he's taking, his crew decided, listen, this world's going nowhere, so we're going to try to take out the apex.
Yeah, what I think is, again, he's not a madman. I think he's a broken man who's accepted that and he's rebuilding himself.
Yeah, and he feels the loss. Remember that scene where the three guys jump out of the helicopter? And they die, but they kill a dragon, and everyone's celebrating. He's like, "You guys are idiots! I lost 3 people today."
Now, did you notice what I noticed in that movie, in that scene? That had to be a reshoot because his beard is noticeably shorter in that scene.
I didn't even know. You know what I noticed though? I'm like, "Where's Jerry Butler in this?" And after he makes a speech, they made sure to show that Jerry Butler wasn't partying.
Right.
Did you notice that?
Yeah, but no, he's got because he's got that kind of thick beard with the bald head, the contrast, and then in that scene where he gives his speech about like,
how dare you,
right?
Yeah,
the city that needs him. He's almost just got like a 5 o'clock shadow.
Oh my god!
And then the next scene he's got his, because watching it again last week, I was like, maybe he got singed off in the fire. But then the next scene he's got his full beard back again, and I was like, oh, that must have been a reshoot.
That had to have been a reshoot. So maybe they needed to flesh out his character a little bit more, make him seem more sympathetic. Because people probably watched it and they're like, I don't like him.
He's not human enough.
Yeah, so he had to go make that speech. He was totally what were they drinking in there, by the way?
Water. Wasn't it all just water?
Oh, I thought they were like doing hooch because they're like, man, this is good stuff. No, Thanks for opening
That's right. It was, but in their flasks, it was just water.
Yeah. So it was like white.
Yeah.
It looked like white dog before it had been aged in a barrel.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just like corn,
Yeah.
corn and tomato, like moonshine, right?
It had to have been, yeah, I would say mostly corn heavy base. I just did the bourbon trail, so I'm like, I know a lot about mash bills. I don't want to spend an hour talking about the mash bill of the Reign of Fire stuff.
That's right. How does it compare to the Dukes of Hazzard hooch?
Oh, this is much better. Post-apocalyptic hooch is always the best hooch.
Or it's maybe just appreciated more.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
I can't go get Crystal Skull vodka, so there's no other option.
There is literally no more hooch in this planet, so I'm gonna enjoy this hooch. It's not like, I didn't get a delivery this week.
I think the next article you should write for Rotten Tomatoes is best prison hooch. Like movie that has the best homemade prison hooch.
I should. I mean, I gotta start putting together a list. I can think of like Big Stan. I gotta start putting together a prison hooch movie. Imagine that getting the full promotional material pushed by them. That'd be amazing. Right. Now, I really want to talk about something in this movie.
Hit me with it.
So I wrote an article about Matthew McConaughey's record-breaking jump in Reign of Fire, and it really did well. A lot of people read it, and it got more eyes on me because of Brian Raftery, a writer. He liked my Deep Blue Sea article, but he read this, and he was a huge fan because he also liked Reign of Fire. And so if you look up my Wired interview, just type in Mark Hoffmeyer Wired, the first image that pops up is Reign of Fire.
Beautiful.
And so whenever I see, my wife got the article framed for me, so I see McConaughey's tattooed body. My alternate intro for this movie was saying that you got McConaughey's tattoo before that movie came out. So when the movie came out, everyone's like, "Hey man, great Reign of Fire tattoo." And you're like, "No man, I had this before it."
Well, let's be. And the story I would have gone with was that like, it's not a Reign of Fire tattoo. It's just I got blade tattoos, but I'm a white guy.
Oh wait, oh yeah, you're right. So it was blade tattoos.
It was blade tattoos.
How bad would that be if you wore pork pie hats before Breaking Bad too? But so I've actually had a lot of interesting arguments. This is the article that I've had the most, not arguments, but discussions where people have really combated me, and I've had to talk more about this movie this jump than I ever thought I would. So, I wrote this article about the jump in Reign of Fire, and I'll attach it in the blog post.
Right.
So I watched this movie, and for 7 seconds, when Mick C jumps, he does not descend. All right. So I wrote, what was his plan if he killed the dragon? So if he killed the dragon, he was still dead. Like, should he have played cat and mouse? How much does the axe weigh? How strong are his quads?
Right.
Do we evolve quickly after the apocalypse to become better jumpers? So I kind of wrote about this scene in this movie because Mick C in this film is a human, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
No, he's not like a John Carter jumper. He's not a Jedi. He's not in the Matrix. He is straight up a human in the human world.
He's not even The Rock. You know?
And The Rock has his own rules.
So if you go to the website, there's actually a bunch of diagrams that my wife did for me about what would happen during this jump. And so for me, I get this is a movie. So this happens in the movie. But I figured out the distance. I measured the platform they jumped off. I measured how long he was in the air. And I measured how fast he was moving. He floats for 35 feet. When he jumps to when the dragon eats him, it's 35 feet. Now, how did I come up with him traveling 35 feet? So I took a look at him jumping, and I paused at the 4 seconds. So there's a video. I'll put it on the blog, the post too. So I measured the length of his body, and then I established by a tape measure against the television that in the 3 seconds that he jumped, he covered 15 feet. Then I played the video and counted how much longer it was until the dragon ate him. 4 seconds. Thus, 7 times 5, 35 feet. It may seem like a very far distance. It is. However, I think it's about right considering he never slowed down and is killed while moving at maximum speed. What I find to be most impressive is it broke every single long jump record with ease. And I showed the long jump record of the guy jumping 29 feet. So a lot of people are like, well, so he jumps and it cuts to Christian Bale and Goldeneye looking up at Isabella Goldeneye. So great jump in that movie too. They're looking up, but when you watch, he hasn't started the swinging motion yet, right? So when you cut to him, That is those seconds. So he has already covered about 15 to 20 feet while they're watching him, and he hasn't descended one bit. Then they cut back to him going full speed, starting the swinging motion. That's a full 3 seconds. So the dragon eats him, but he stays level with the ground, does not descend for 7 seconds, and he covers 35 feet. Also, if he would have jumped and dropped, the dragon would have eaten him and slammed right into that thing he jumped off. However, the dragon eats him and just flies right over that thing. And that's a big dragon. It couldn't have course corrected that quickly. It would have slammed right into it.
You can't change physics.
So this McConaughey literally floats in the air for 35 feet. Wow. And I have a question for you.
I'm ready for this question.
Do you think if the dragon didn't eat him, he would still be floating?
Well, I think that you've proven that, in fact, he would. Because the fact that he stays full speed. Descended.
Yep. Hasn't descended, and he's full speed 7 seconds after he first jumped. And he only got 4 steps.
So that shows us that it's fact there's no other forces. There's no gravity's not being built. There's no friction. He has just entered some kind of vortex where he's just riding the air like Goku style, and he would still be going right now.
And a lot of people are like, no, they just show different angles and it's like non-linear. But I'm like, listen, watch. When they're looking at him, he hasn't started the swinging motion. That's how I know it's 35 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So he jumps. He would have. So The Rock does about I wrote an article about this. Got a bunch of views. The Rock covers a little bit over 40 feet in his skyscraper jump. McConaughey would have broken that by 7,000 times because he's still floating. He's in the air with his axe.
Jump, does it have different physics because it's like so unprecedentedly high in the air? Is it because the air's thinner up there? So does his 40 feet at the top of the skyscraper jump translate differently if he was at the dragon level?
You're right, because he's higher up. He has further to run, so he has a longer, he has a further running distance, and there's about a 15-foot drop for him to do The Rock, so that his jump was much easier than what McConaughey did.
Right, and gravity was stronger the closer you get to the center of the earth.
And if The Rock would have done the McC jump at that height, he wouldn't have descended and just would have smacked right into a glass thing and fallen down the building.
Exactly.
So this jump is the most impressive jump in cinema history.
Absolutely.
Aside from a deleted scene from Cliffhanger that they showed in the trailer. If you watch the trailer for Cliffhanger, if you watch the trailer for Cliffhanger, was that like?
That sounds like the porn version of Cliffhanger.
That sounds like the Reign of Fire movie of Cliffhanger, where they just hang out, they hunker down in a cliff, and they just hunker down.
Not much happens.
Yeah, they hear dragons occasionally, and they're hunkering in a cliff. But yeah, so he jumps like easily 40 feet across a crevasse. So that's pretty impressive.
When Cliffhanger came out, I hated it because that's kind of a fun movie. Like John Lithgow's in it, and it's Stallone doing things, and it's kind of like a typical late 80s, early 90s movie. But man, you watch that movie with somebody who's like a rock climber, and they're just like, "Oh, this would never happen." I'm like, I know, but it's a movie, so shut up.
Dude, people still do that. Like people are like, if this would have happened, they would have died. Like no,
yeah.
Like so that movie,
there's no way that clip would have broken when they're hanging that way.
That movie
did though.
The Happening, right? Everyone's like, that movie's so stupid, but I'm like, The Happening doesn't take place in our world. The Happening takes. Right. You should listen to that podcast. It takes place in a world where people speak like they do. That's not our world. And when I watch tennis movies, I play tennis for years. And when I see them, I'm like, oh, that's how they play tennis in movies. Like that's not
right. 100%.
Because you can't teach Shia LaBeouf to play like John McEnroe in 3 months. John McEnroe put a lifetime of work into getting that stroke. And if you read Infinite Jest, you learn how much goes into tennis. But yeah, you can't do that. So yeah, that bothers. Yeah, I get with Cliffhanger. Yeah, they don't climb like that. Well, yeah, I mean it's a Stallone movie where they're climbing inside a set.
Right, and just enjoy John Lithgow being a hilarious villain.
Yeah, he's super '90s villain.
Yes,
Like
100%.
very smart, ruthless,